Alright, we have our hand solo on Carbonite here. I put the video up of it a little while ago. The power switch is on the other side. It's over here on one of these guys. One of these side pieces, if I remember right. No. Okay, so I don't remember where the power switch is. Well, we'll figure that out in a minute. What I'm here to do, there it is. Everyone see it turn on for a second? There we go. What I'm here to do is hack it and put some batteries in it. Now, there's a couple of things you can do with it. You can get a wall wart that's the right voltage. I have one, so I'm going to use it. So it just plugs into the wall. Okay? Now, you can check the voltage on your wall warts by looking at the side right here. Okay? This one's a little underpowered. This is 3.9 volts. Okay? I got another one here. Even still has a plug on it. And if we read the voltage on it, it is 3.2 volts, which is way underpowered. Now, I'm probably going to save this one for something else, because 3.2 volts is just a little bit higher than your common LED. So I could power something pretty basic and simple, like an X-Wing or something like with that. That doesn't have any blinking lights. Now this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and use on this guy because it's 4.5 volts there. This is 4 volts, so it's going to light it up just fine. You could also use a USB cable, hack it apart, and power this with a USB cable. And I will probably start doing some of that with my model lighting because USB cables are 5 volts, and you've got USB power plugs galore if you've got an electronics addiction. Okay, so it's real easy to have those laying around along with the power plugs. I've got some power plugs that won't charge anything anymore because power requirements have gotten so high on some devices that your common USB, the older USB power plugs just can't handle them. So I'm going to link to a video to someone who did hack this and use a USB cable to power it. Okay? Now, like him, I don't really want to hack into the case of this thing. So I probably won't. I know the the wiring inside here is going to be really basic. I know this thing isn't necessarily the prettiest thing on the planet, but it was good. And the last time I checked, Think Geek had this on sale for $5. I mean, for $10. So you could buy this thing pretty cheaply right now. I don't know if they still have it. Now, the way the power is set up, you see we got positive here and negative here. If you start looking at how the jumpers run on the batteries, let me pull the batteries out. Okay? So we can see how the power cycles in here. All right? Now, these two are connected. You can tell because if I wiggle it, let me come up closer to the camera. When I wiggle it, they both move and this one doesn't. And then these two over here are connected. Okay? So this is the negative and this is the positive power. Negative to positive, negative to positive. This end up here is negative, this end down here is positive. So these are the two power leads to feed this thing. Okay? My goal is to wire this in, plug it into the wall. We have a motion detector in our theater room, and when the motion detector gets tripped, I want this thing to kick on and stay on for like 20 or 30 minutes while the movie begins or whatever we're doing in there. I mean, for a couple hours. Being LEDs, we're not going to burn these out, and if I lower the power going to them from 4.5 volts to 4, they'll last a lot longer too. It won't be as bright, but it's going to be in a dark room anyhow. What I got to do next is figure out the polarity of this and figure out if it can actually power it. I'm going to cut camera and go take care of that. All right, I have this powered by a wall wart finally. Okay, and you can tell if I unplug it, it goes off. Now, this isn't too hard to do. You just got to find the right voltage for your wall wart, and this one is, I think, 4 volts. Which means those are burning a little bit dimmer because the batteries were providing 4.5 volts. I marked them positive, negative, And just by trial and error, I found the positive and negative end. Right now, those are on there with crimped ends. If you've done any automotive work, you've got some of this somewhere. And it comes with a crimping tool, and you just stick over the end and crimp it. I painted one end black, one end is red. Miri helped paint one end of it a little bit with some green. So I know which is positive, negative. I'm going to leave it like this. I'm not going to solder those wires in, because who knows, maybe 3 years from now I won't put batteries back on it. I doubt I will, but if I decide to, I can. Okay? This is pretty much done. I'm just going to take the battery tray, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put it in one of the drawers where it's going to be. I can go plug this into the wall now, and when the motion's detected, this will light up. So there you go. It's pretty simple to do. To power this with a wall wart, you just got to find the right voltage wall wart. All right. Hope you enjoyed. All right, everyone. Here's one of the hazards of using old wall warts. This thing died. I had it plugged into here in the back of Han Solo. It was working really well for about 2 days. And then all of a sudden, bam, quits working. I just checked it with the voltmeter. 0 voltage coming out of this thing. So it is dead, toasted, fried, going in the garbage can. It is what it is. This does happen from time to time, and I can't really do much about it. So what I think I'm going to do to this one, I do have a spare one over here. This one here that actually has a plug on it. I'm either going to use this one, or I'm just going to go USB, because the voltage on this would work really well with USB anyhow. So I'll be back and let you know what I'm doing. Well, I'm back to the Han Solo and Carbonite, and I want to read a YouTube comment about this thing, because, well, it's a good comment, and I think some of you should hear it. Let me find it real quick. Of course, I'm not prepared the way I should be, but that's the way it is. Here it is. I was warehouse manager for a robe factory, so thought I'd chime in with some info. The Carbonite hand display is injected molded plastic, and it's actually the same exact part used for the 3D hand 14-liter cooler door, just with added base and battery compartment. They used a scan of the life-size model to make a 3D printed prototype, which they then shipped off to China to be tooled. Same thing with the lightsaber lamps they did for ThinkGeek. This came for ThinkGeek, so this is from a 3D scan of the actual prop. And that's really kind of cool if you think about it. So this was 3D printed off a 3D scan, so it's probably pretty accurate. Okay? Now, I powered it with a wall wart. The wall wart failed 2 days later. So, and you've already seen those videos. What we're going to try now is USB power. I got a USB printer cable here. I'm about to cut the head off of it because, well, I don't need this. These cables come with so many things. You get so many of these cables. USB provides 5 volts. So anytime I'm doing a lighting project that requires 5 volts or less, I'm probably going to use a USB cable from now on. So I'm about to cut the top of the cable off. And this will be fun because I'm doing all this live on camera. Top of the cable is removed. There are 4 wires in there, I expected, because if you can look inside there, there are 4 pins. Same thing if you look on this. There are 4 pins. The outer jacket is just shielding. And there's a magnet inside there. You cut that out, there's a magnet in there. The magnet is to smooth out the electromagnetic waves from the signals that are being transmitted. Okay? So they don't crosstalk between cables and stuff. Now, there's supposed to be 4 wires in here. I don't want to use my good plastic nippers to open that with. So I'm going to grab my X-Acto knife, which I am not prepared for since this room is such a mess. And I had to take it away from Miri the other day because she decided she was going to play with this thing. And being 3, I don't think she should be playing with this. Should you, Miri? She's intently painting a dinosaur right now. You can see her little hand right there. You painting Garby, right, Miri? I'm painting Garby. Okay, let me put the Han Solo aside because we don't want to damage that. Okay? Let me get a cutting pad, which this table is littered with these things, and cut the outer cable off. The outer jacket of the cable. At this point, I'm not really too worried if I damage the inside wires. I will be worried about it later, but not right now. I just need enough wire length to do this with. Okay. Now, I'm going to zoom a little bit so you can see what I'm working on. Because that, oh, of course, the camera is not in a good position and you're getting my hand instead of what we want, right? And then you get my belly if I go too far the other way. So let me just move my hand onto camera. Okay, there we go. Now we can see it. There is a metal sheath around the outside of these wires that is, again, shielding. So when you're transmitting data, there's no interference between different cables sitting next to each other. You don't want that interference there. We're not using this to transmit data anymore. Obviously, I cut the end of it off. Now there's 4 wires. You have white, black, green, and red. The black and red ones are, off camera. The black and red ones provide the power. The green and white ones, these 2 green and white ones, are signal wires.
Papa.
Yes.
Papa.
You need new color?
Blue.
You want some more blue? Okay, I'll get you some more blue. I'm going to pause the camera in a second. You got to wait a second, Mary. Let me finish this sentence, this little paragraph, and then we'll get you more blue, okay? Okay, again, the green and white wires just carry data. They are not carrying power. It's just the black and red ones we care about. And I don't quite have enough off of it right there yet to get power off of it, so I'm going to have to cut this cable a little bit further. I'll come back in a minute once I got the cable cut and the wire, the insulation pulled off the wires. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, after making a mistake and cutting it a little, well, I didn't cut it too short. I tried to cut the white and green wire off, and I cut the red wire off instead. So I had to redo the whole thing. It takes a little bit of patience to trim this down to just red and black. I'm about to strip the 2 wires, get a wall wart, a power supply, a little thing you plug in the wall to plug your USB in. I'm also going to add a resistor to this, and the reason for that is this is 5 volts, that is 4.5 volts. That 0.5 volts will cut the lifetime of the LEDs down some, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is add like a 500 ohm resistor. I don't know what the current is that's drawing through that. It can't be much. There are 3 LEDs, okay? Each LED takes 20 milliamps, and they're orange, so they're about 2 volts each. So it wouldn't surprise me if they just put the 3 in series. Without opening the back of the box, I won't know for sure, okay? So if they're in series, about 2 volts each, that's 6 volts, and they're underpowered anyhow. And I'm not running a risk of blowing them out at 5 volts. But I'd rather add a resistor to it just because and lower the voltage a little bit on the output. So I'm going to go over to my resistors, and I'm going to pull out at least a 500 ohm resistor. A 500 ohms, let's say 20 milliamps each, is pulling 60 milliamps. V equals IR. So 60 milliamps times 500 ohms, that's 0.06 times 500, or 3 volts. So maybe a 500 ohm resistor will make it too dim, but the only way to find out is to give it a try. Okay? And I can always change it out to a 125 ohm resistor or something else to make sure. But I'm going to add a resistor because I don't want to burn this out, have to take it apart and pull LEDs and put new ones in. So I'll be back in a minute while I get everything set up, and we're going to see what it looks like once I get this thing ready to go. Now, I'm not soldering anything just yet. I'm just kind of throwing everything together to see if it works. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've got my USB power supply. It is plugged in to a live outlet. I am going to hook up my positive and negative feeds. It has a 220 kilo ohm resistor to it. And we're going to see if we get light. If we get light, then we're good to go. Or it could also be powered off. I don't know. No flashing? The switch could be off. I know it's got a good resistor. Because, I mean, a good power supply, because I have used it to charge a PlayStation 4 controller. Might be too high of a resistor too, or I could have burned the thing out with a wall wart. Okay, let me check something. It's not coming on, so I need to check and make sure we got voltage and all sorts of other stuff. I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, here's the voltmeter. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit on that so everyone can see the readings. The resistor is dropping the voltage to almost 4 volts. Which is fine. It's reading 4.5, 4.6 volts. So it looks like I got a good resistor. If I bypass the resistor, we're reading almost exactly 5 volts. So this has functionality. Okay? So I'm going to unplug it so I don't burn something up by touching wires accidentally. And I'm going to put some batteries in my unit and make sure I have it working correctly. Miri, are you done painting?
No.
What are you doing?
Just getting more brushes.
All right, everyone. It's got batteries. I'm hitting the switch. Apparently, I burned it out. Or I broke a switch or something. Apparently, that wall wart damaged it. Joy. Burned it out. I'm going to have to tear it apart and find out what's going on. You can see there's batteries in there. The batteries could be bad. These are Duracells, and I've had a lot of bad luck with Duracells as of late. So it could be bad batteries. It could be bad who knows what.
Papa!
Yes?
Papa! I want more blue.
Okay, I'll give you more blue in a minute, okay?
There's no blue.
Okay, there's no blue paint. I'll give you more blue paint in a minute.